Oh, fuck.
Welcome to the Gooners podcast, season 7, episode 7. Can you feel it coming in the air tonight? Oh Lord, it's the Gooners pod.
Once upon a time, way back when there were only 9,000 Arsenal podcasts, 5 young men from various backgrounds, an Irish kid with a horrible haircut, a young Jewish nerd who hadn't discovered food yet, a child from Hemel Hempstead who didn't want to be English no more, a handsome advertising magnate with impeccable judgment, and a young Mexican AC Milan fan hatched a plan to take over the world of Arsenal podcasts. But then these boys became men. Jared, Mikey, Ewan, Magic, and Andy. And the rest, my friends, is history. And now, all these years later, you tune in every so often to hear their incredible takes, their football knowledge, and their sensual advice. But now, it's gone too far. You, our fans, are at long last witness to season
7.
Welcome to the Gooners pod.
Andrew, have you been waiting for this moment for all of your life?
Well, first off, fuck you, Mike. Fuck you, like, completely. I'm just curious. So, what did that guy call Owen in the voiceover? Did he say something like Ewan?
Well, his name is spelled E-I-O-N, and
Owen.
and
Owen
well, you would rightly recognize that as being Owen, but the majority of the rest of the earth, it's Ian, it's Owen.
Yeah, they have no idea, do they?
Yeah, in fact, when we penned him to the contract, this was the this was the learning curve I had to go through.
We are looking at how to pronounce this traditional Irish name. How do you go about pronouncing it? Not like it's spelled, but simply Owen.
Ian.
Owen.
Ian.
Owen.
E-N.
Owen. Here are many more videos on how.
So, your Irish brother, and he's from Newry, actually, just I think across the line from you. But yeah. So, speaking of the voiceover, I mean, I don't know if you recognized the incredible voiceover artist, but as a guy who understands a little bit about voiceovers, on a scale from -50 to +1, where do you rank that voiceover?
Well, I didn't recognize it, so I'm a little bit cautious now about how exactly to rank that.
Well, let's just say that it was that I put on a different voice for the.
All right, well then it's about a 3. About a 3. To be fair, yeah. I think the microphone could have done some work. It felt like you did that using a headset that I used to wear when I was a technical support guy in internet tech support back in the early 90s. Or the late 90s, and people were going, I can't connect to my internet. And then you'd have to talk them through why they have to reinstall TCP/IP on their Windows 95 computer, all of that stuff. It sounded a bit like, those things that went around your face. So, I mean,
and the microphone
rate you to a 3.5, actually.
The microphone adds 30 pounds, and I had about 9 microphones hanging all over me at the time. So it's obviously great to have you back on. Always fun to have you here. When you've been coming on the Gooners podcast since season 1, right. And I have to say I still don't understand why you agree when I ask you to come on, but it's appreciated.
I've got problems with saying no to people who ask me to go on podcasts. To be honest, it's a weakness. But look, no, I mean it's because I ask people to go on. My podcast all the time. So I feel like I need to pay it forward. Is that how you say? You need to just sort of, give a bit back. When people are so generous with their time for me, I've got to be, generous with my time for everyone and even you.
And even, well, I'd like to be associated with everyone, but not like adjacently. But no, I do appreciate that. And paying it forward is one of my favorite concepts. I talk about it a lot. And paying it forward is not always necessarily paying it back to the people that paid it to you, but rather to others, because you never know what comes around. So I think that that perfectly explains a little bit about who you are as a person. So speaking of paying it forward, so how much exactly, for anyone who might not know, how much exactly do you hate Phil Collins and why?
This is kind of like a running joke on the blog. It's been a running joke on the blog for quite a number of years, actually probably since its inception, because you have these pantomime villain characters. When you're making spurious comparisons in a blog post about how much you hate a particular footballer or a football club or a manager or whatever it is, you need something to say, this is worse than, or I hate this more than. And Phil Collins became quickly that figure for me. And look, I'm not going to say I'm not a fan of Phil Collins, because clearly I'm not. The whole thing really is based around that song, In the Air Tonight, which I think is just one of the worst songs ever written. It's so tedious and boring. And then he tries to bring it to life by doing that kind of drum solo bit. That bit, which is like doing CPR on a corpse that's been dead for 10 years and then trying to French kiss it back to life. That's what that is.
So if I told you that he was drowning, you would not lend a hand?
Oh, Jesus. This is what's going to go on all night, is it?
It doesn't have to. I mean, I'm prepared for it too, but it doesn't have to. I can change on the fly. So speaking of which, we have to talk about Arsenal a little bit here, but I don't honestly want to overdo it. I mean, it's the silly season. You can watch or listen to 1,000 better podcasts than ours to get updates on Rafinha and all the different players that we have been buying and are used to it. But so we will talk about it a little bit. But then after that, I really want to spend more of our time together on a topic I enjoy talking about a lot more, especially during the off season. And it's apropos considering what's recently gone on in the Arsenal fandom and kind of Gooner base. So if anyone in the chat has any user questions, anything that they want to make sure to ask to Andrew during the podcast, we're going to be on until about, 7:45, or just maybe between 7:45 and 8 UK
we can
time.
go to 8. We can go to 8. That's no problem.
No problem. 8 tonight though, right?
Not tomorrow morning.
Not tomorrow,
I know you do these marathon things, and
that's my next ask, because that's been scheduled, but not for now. Yeah. So if you have any questions you want to ask of Andrew, please put it in the chat. Start it with a Q for question, and I'll tag it and we'll answer it later. So, do you remember the summer of 2015 when we bought only Petr Cech and simultaneously loaned out, among others, Debussy, Serge Gnabry, Emi Martinez, and Wojciech Szczesny? You remember that summer quite fondly, I'm sure.
Yes, one of my favorites.
I mean, I remember. How could I ever forget? But this summer is not that, Andrew. It is not that. I'm getting whiplash from all the transfer activities and the legitimate kind of almost across the line tweets from legit non-rodent, non-anonymous ITKs that are actually
no horses, no donkeys, no Arsenal unicorn. The gerbil, of course, we know is as reliable as it gets. But if you go into the realm of hamster or chinchilla, the Arsenal chinchilla, that guy talking out of his arse.
No, and my least favorite, and the one that's clearly just trying to drag off of the popularity of the gerbil is the Arsenal llama. That guy sucks. But we're not. I don't know why I take such of an interest in defending the gerbil, but someone's got to. So
true.
But we're seeing Ornstein, we're seeing the James McNicholases of the world, of which I wish there were more, because it would just be a good thing for everyone. But we're seeing a lot of things that are just about across the line. So is this considered a madness, or a madness just specifically when you buy like a 100 million pound player that clearly isn't going to work out like every other 100 million player has it?
Yes, a really good point. I don't know. I mean, let's call it a madness when we do more of the things. There's a lot of good stories and a lot of names being mentioned, but as yet, we've only brought in Fabio Vieira and of course Marquinhos as well from Brazil. So good luck to him. A couple of attacking players, but I think we need to see a bit more before we can really make any judgments. Daniel Robert, I can be dissing Phil Collins, Daniel, and I can, and nobody here can stop me. Let's, I'm quite encouraged by the names that we're being linked with and the kinds of players that we're being linked with as well. So it's a good start so far, but let's get moving. As Edu said, he wanted to give people a bit more to be happy about. And I don't think he's just talking about his what's the Brazilian barbecue, the churrasco. Yeah, he's not just going to come around with an endless supply of barbecued meat to all of us. Just when you think you've had enough meat, there's Edu again. Look, do you want a bit of tri-tip? You want some of this chicken? You want a bit of this barbecue?
I think Arsenal fans, the chips, though, I don't know if the Brazilian steakhouses are the same way for you, but you have to, there's a red and a green chip that you have on your table that you turn red if you don't want them to stop by. Mine, I've never actually experienced what it's like to have it on red. But yeah, that's how they do it here. Is if it's green, they come over like one after the other, and just jump meat on their plate. And clearly, I spend a lot of time in those establishments. But yeah, I mean, it isn't that so much business has been done already. It's a weekend, barely a weekend, 2 weeks into the transfer window. But it just the feel is. I mean, normally at this point in the transfer window, we are seeing the opening games of a summer tournament where it slows down transfer activities and we're linked with absolutely nobody.
Yeah. It'll all be done after the World Cup, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then after the World Cup, it's, we need to replace this person before we can buy. I'm not seeing a whole lot of that going on here. So there is that kind of where there's smoke, there's fire attitude, but you're right. I mean, it'd be a bit premature, as they say, to say we're doing bits at the moment. But who would you say in that? I mean, it's a batch of players, all 22 to 25. I mean, literally anyone who's 26 and up is being considered too old at this point to join us. So which guy in this batch of racehorses of 22, 23, 24 years old are you most excited about the possibility of adding to the team?
Well, look, I really like the idea of Gabriel Jesus as our number 9, as our center forward. But I think what would excite me is I think there's a general acceptance that deal is pretty far down the line and it's going to get done at some point. Like if Arsenal were to announce the signing of Gabriel Jesus tomorrow, people would say, at last. We've been hearing about this for months now, so about time you guys got it over the line. Whereas I think if you were to do a deal for someone like Rafinha, there would be an element, not necessarily of surprise, but, okay, this is going above and beyond what I thought we might do this summer because we've already got Bukayo Saka, and we've got Martinelli, we've got Smith Rowe, we've got Odegaard, we've got Vieira in now, and people will be going, wow, this is like another really good attacking player to add to this. So that kind of a signing on top of what we already have, assuming that we're going to get Gabriel Jesus in, I think would be really, really exciting to me because it would show that there is a clear plan this summer in terms of our recruitment to change the way that we play. You've just shrunk.
I wanted to,
when you get older,
this is the only situation in which I can say I want to come down to your level because in general that would be very egotistical and completely insane. But I just thought it might, the aesthetics might look better if our
okay. I don't mind being
heads were at the same level.
I don't mind you looming over me, but
so what I think said when I was with you though.
It would really signify a change in the way that we're going to play next season and how we're going to try and control games, how we're going to try and change games. This problem we have of not being able to, if you'll pardon the expression, come from behind. We can't really do that at the moment, or we couldn't do it last season. And the reality is the reason we couldn't do it was because when you looked at the bench, it was 3 defenders, some kind of midfielder, maybe 2, and then maybe Nicolas Pepe or somebody like that, who had a terrible season, and you just could not rely on him doing anything. And then you had a striker maybe like Lacazette or like Nketiah, depending on who was starting. And if you think about, going into a game next season where potentially you could bring off the bench Nketiah, Fabio Vieira, Rafinha, and one of Smith Rowe and Martinelli, that changes, right? That changes the way that you can influence games, particularly with a 5-sub setup. So
that's the key.
That I think is what's most exciting about this. Like this transfer window, I know we've been linked with Lisandro Martinez, who's a defender from Ajax, another really interesting player as well. But primarily this summer is about adding attackers. It's about adding forwards, not necessarily the archetypal center forward, but forwards who can play across that forward line in a number of positions, who can give us variety, who can give us depth. And that's what's really exciting because, we all like a signing, but everyone, I think, is particularly interested in an attacking signing, a player who can get you goals, who can get you assists, who can get you off your seat, by doing something amazing and skillful and roasting a defender or making John Terry fall flat in his face. We all love those kind of players. So I think that's what's particularly exciting about this window.
Yeah, and it seems pretty clear from the Man City pedigree that we hope to see, and clearly that's what Mikel Arteta wants to kind of endorse in our club, that we're not necessarily looking for 125 goal scorer. We'd be perfectly happy to get 5 15 goal scorers, or 3 15 goal scorers and 2 10 goal scorers. And that you saw that kind of after Aubameyang left the squad last year, or was banished from the squad before he left, that the goals started pouring in from Saka, from Smith Rowe, couple from Odegaard, and even Thomas Partey started getting on the score sheet. Not that was related to Aubameyang, but you just saw more spread out of goals, secondary scorers, as they call it in American sports. And I think that's ultimately the strategy that he wants to play. So just this fluid front six, if you will, that's just hard to keep track of and not know where the goals are going to come from, but know that they're going to come. Tielemans, it kind of seems like he's going to have to wipe off that grin because we know where he's been. And has Tielemans all been a pack of lies? That's the last one. I think that's the last one.
Thank you. I don't know if it's been a pack of lies, but I just wonder if maybe something has changed in terms of, how they're going to think about building the team. Can Fabio Vieira play in that left 8 role? Maybe. I'm not 100% sure. I would like us to see, I would like us to sign another central midfield player. If it's Fabio Vieira, great. But I still think we could use a little bit of depth there, So I don't quite know what's going to happen with Tielemans. If people listen to the Arscast Extra on Friday, they'll have heard James, sort of spell out what's going on there, that as it stands, it's all a bit cool, and we're the only show in town. Thank you, Joseph Shalley. Everyone's getting involved here. I don't quite know what's going to happen yet, but look, there is a long way to go in this window. I think, as fans, want to see as much done before the start of the season as possible, because as last season showed, if you drop
every season has shown.
Well, yeah, exactly. But look, like we're not alone in that. I mean, we feel it more keenly than maybe others, but we're not alone in not getting all our business done in time for the start of the season. Lots of other clubs do that. Lots of other clubs are dictated to by the market. So I don't think it's necessarily fair to say that like this is simply a problem that's unique to Arsenal. It's not. It is a problem that exists. Market forces and all that kind of stuff. Shit happens towards the end of the transfer window. So I think there's a way to go. But if we could get as much as possible done before the first game of the season, obviously that would be extremely helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it really does feel, and I think it's a great point to point out that it's not just us, but I mean, who's really paying attention to whether Crystal Palace has all their targets in by the time we play them or not? I'm thinking of in terms of how short we've been in the first month of every single season. whether it's and the fact that when these players come in late, they normally take a month to bed in, and not having them on the summer tour. It's I mean, the last big signings that we've made that I remember immediately hopping onto the summer tour and being a big part of it were Granit Xhaka, who came over to California in 2016, not speaking a word of English, but he was on the stage, during the fan events and playing a major part of the summer, and as much as that has or hasn't turned out, I do think it helped him get off the ground a little bit quicker, and he got into those red cards much easier than he would have otherwise.
Yeah, it could have taken him.
Yeah. So a couple of user questions before we switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
Your good friend Daniel Robert has asked how Rafinha, Saka, ESR, Gabby, Eddie, Vieira, Odegaard, and Jesus fit all into one team. Now that's 8 players. Are we going down the Man City route? If you mean by Man City by having enough depth in our second squad to win a lot of games, I certainly hope so.
I think that's what it is. Obviously, they can't all start, but we can't start Martin Odegaard every game. We can't start Bukayo Saka every game. There will come a point, hopefully in the new year after a World Cup where we're in the knockout stages of the Europa League, where we're playing big, important European games, which we have to prioritize. And then we're also playing big, important Premier League games. And you can't ask Bukayo Saka to play Thursday, Sunday. You just can't do it. So I think we need to, we all have our favorite players, right? We all have our favorite guys that we want to see in the team every week. We all have our opinions about who should start where and everything else. But I think we need to move away from the idea of there being a first team, if that makes sense. Because what we had last season? We had a first team.
Well, because we had one game a week.
Yeah, exactly. And we could all pick that team basically week in, week out. If everyone's fit, we know what that first team is. And then there's like 2 or 3 guys who are also there or thereabouts. And then after that, you've got warm bodies on the bench who aren't really good for very much. And I think what we need to try and recalibrate our brains as Arsenal fans into thinking like, yes, Bukayo Saka is brilliant. We love him. We want him to stay. But he doesn't need to start every single game.
Well, I think he's better off if he doesn't. He really looked knackered by the end of the season. I mean, it was apparent.
That kid's, come off the Euros, played all season. We need to manage these guys well. And that means having them as fit as possible for as long as possible throughout the season. So, if your option to replace Bukayo Saka next season is Nicolas Pepe, that would be very disappointing. Or if it's Omari Hutchinson, taking nothing away from a young player, is he ready to do that? Probably not at this stage in his career. But if you've got Bukayo Saka, who, let's not forget, I think can play in other positions too, and your option is Rafinha, you're playing an away game in Europe on a Thursday and Rafinha starts and scores some goals. Bukayo Saka sits on the bench, comes off and starts the Premier League game, or vice versa, So all of those players into one team, no, they don't go. They don't all start in one team. But we're hopefully going to play 50 odd games next season between the Premier League and Europe and cup games, more maybe. And we can't make the mistake that we did last season. We tried to get away with a small squad, and when we got a couple of injuries to key players, we did not have the depth. It cost us. It cost us top 4, and that's something that we can't let happen again. So all of those players, they're not all going to start at the same time, but to have those guys at our disposal for the duration of a season would be amazing.
Yeah, and the only exception to we don't necessarily need a first team is I do think the central defense partnerships. I really like what I saw from White and Gabriel playing together, because they do such different things that complement each other perfectly. So I would be fine on a Thursday, Sunday saying, okay, well, this league game is much more important than this dead rubber Europa League game in December. Or I guess it won't be December this year. It'll be October, November. So we'll start Saliba and Holding for this game, and having kind of a first choice center back pairing and trying to have that partnership together, to me, that's the only situation where I would say, first team, second team type of thing. But otherwise, you can be very, very fluid with, fullbacks, with wing players and strikers for sure.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And I think that's important because, I think Mikel Arteta was frustrated with the inability to field a consistent back four. And last season he went out and, he bought, two players to fit into a back four and a goalkeeper. But I also think it's an issue of quality as well. That if you have another quality player in there, it makes it easier to change your central defensive partnerships. And again, Ben White and Gabriel cannot play every game. Right. Just can't do it. So we've got to be open to that aspect of things as well.
Perfect. So I have a couple questions that might be inside jokes that I'm not in on. Ball or aerosol? Does that mean anything to you?
It absolutely does not, but I'm guessing that's a deodorant question.
Yeah, I'm guessing it is. And as a man who likes to smell good, what do you do there?
Aerosol. I don't like the ball stuff. It leaves, it's a bit sticky and icky. I don't like it. Yeah, so yeah, good old fashioned right guard or whatever.
Nice. And you just bask in and it ends up on your face and you walk through it. Do you spray it and then walk through it? That's what my wife does with her perfume. She like sprays it in the air and then walks through it, and it just looks so ridiculous, but I don't tell her that.
That's a very efficient way of doing it. Spray it in the air, walk through it. It's like going through a car wash.
Exactly. That's how I shower. I just turn the water on, I walk through it once, and then that's that. Yeah, that's it. Except for when I eat soup in the shower, as we once discussed, I think on our first show together. We had a question about a bunch of them about Rafinha. Do you believe the Rafinha hype from Wenger Kid? I'm struggling with it. 65 for him. It's max 40, and I'll combine into that. If we get Rafinha, how important is it that Saka signs a new deal? I'm guessing, he's seeing Rafinha maybe as leverage, and God forbid, let's not say this, but let's kind of think of it. If we were to have to sell Saka and we've rebooted with a Rafinha and with Marquinhos panning out, hopefully, do we suddenly have a little bit more of a willingness to grab, 8 figures in transfer fees and further bolster the squad? I would guess that's where Dempsey's getting at.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the Rafinha price is quite interesting. I'm guessing there is a point to which Arsenal will go, but whether it's 65 million, I'm not sure. I'd be surprised if it was that high, to be honest.
That's apparently what Leeds is saying. Take it or leave it, and that'll change in late August. But
yeah, but I mean, it's like Sheffield United talking about 40 million for Aaron Ramsdale last summer, and it didn't end up being 40 million. It was about half of that. On the Saka deal, I think it's separate from Rafinha. I think we have to get this guy tied down to a new contract. He's our player, academy guy, has made the breakthrough. He's 20 years of age. He's probably quite underpaid at this point for the responsibility and the importance that he has.
I'd say on 30 a week. I'd say he's.
I don't know what it is. This is the deal that he signed a couple of years ago. And I'd say it was, a decent deal, but he's now full England international. He's taking the final penalty for England in an international tournament. And, God bless him, it didn't work out as well as he would have liked. But, that tells you the kind of stature of player that he is, for club and country. So I think he deserves a pay rise. There's no two ways about it. He deserves a pay rise. And I hope that we can get that done. But to me, it's slightly separate from the Rafinha thing. I don't know if signing Rafinha would make Saka think twice about signing a new deal. I don't really think so, because he must know how important he is to Mikel Arteta. Because, if there was a friendly kickabout in the car park, Mikel Arteta is going to start Bukayo Saka, if he can.
And he's got to know how targeted he was last year, how exhausted he was, how much he wants to be able to preserve his career. I mean, he's a smart enough kid to understand, even at 21, 22 years old, that he's going to need to play a lot less than he's been playing. And, why not have your replacement be someone good as opposed to somebody who you don't have to worry about taking your spot. So, yeah, I'd agree with you on that. Mark, who was here yesterday when we had, let's call him the Andrew Jr., Andrew Allen. Now you told me you listened to, like the first third of the episode, which is great because we didn't start talking about you until the second third of the episode. But who would you say is the most valuable Andrew at Arseblog?
Oh, certainly Andrew Allen. How can I compete with a guy with an impeccably groomed beard like that? Never a hair out of place, style icon, basically. You were there at the weekend of Union Chapel. You saw the pants that he was able to get away with. Unbelievable.
I saw nothing but the pants.
If I wore those, people would set upon me in the streets like I was some kind of leper. They would beat me within an inch of my life and put me in a cage and hang me there as a warning to anyone else who might wear pants like that. But he pulls them off without any problem. So from that perspective,
you've seen him pull those off?
Oh, listen, I've seen him pull all kinds of things off, assless chaps, the whole lot. So yeah, look, Andrew is a hugely important part of the team. So I'm not gonna blow my own trumpet, particularly on video. So I will.
You never know where William Saliba might be videotaping you. So.
Oh, Jesus, I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, less said about that, the better, Mike. I think.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we really enjoyed our talk with him. I hadn't really spoken to him at length. I just met him for the first time last month, and clicked quite well. I enjoy his sense of humor, and obviously it's this common sense of humor that I think a lot of the folks who are in your circles have, which I enjoy and like the banter. So so anyway, thanks for answering that question. So here's what I really want to get your thoughts and reactions to. And it's a bit of a mini manifesto, but and by the end of it, I might get accused of being a little bit of an ass kisser, but I don't give a shit about that. So if you watch my show, you know that kind of how I feel about this. Winning trophies is great. It's amazing. It's fun. It doesn't happen every year unless you're Manchester City, and not winning things really kind of sucks. But winning things and losing things alone, whether if you're just alone in your man cave or your woman cave watching on your own, it just absolutely sucks. There's no great part of winning, and there's just an absolute emptiness in losing. So Arsenal's about winning and losing, the Arsenal way, history, and pride. But to me, being a Gooner is something completely different. And what I love more about being a Gooner than anything else is the people, the community, the worldwide, and the kinds of experiences that are out there waiting for us if you just go out and kind of enter the community and if you're fortunate enough to experience it. So whether it's getting together with neighbors to watch a game, going to your local pub or your supporters clubs, which are kind of popping up or existing all over the world now, being in London and going to a game or going to the surroundings of a game, it doesn't really matter. It could be online, or it could be just through a YouTube channel, a podcast, Discord, Patreon, whatever. And I have to say that in my time of kind of the social Arsenal life, which is really for me just been the last 8-9 years or so, the single most incredible example of just a community of love and mutual respect and humor and happiness, even in the face of bitter disappointment of absolutely blowing top four against Spurs and Newcastle, was on 21st of May at the Union Chapel. I have some videos to play. You've seen some of them, and I don't want to take too much of our time playing pre-recorded video, but it was just 900 Arsenal supporters from all ages, from the States, from England, from Ireland, a very strange number from Hackney, as I found out. Just everyone I asked where they were from was Hackney. But in a beautiful chapel, which actually allowed in, a handful of Jews, which I was pleased about. We weren't just enjoying 5 people who make them laugh and give them therapy and enhance their understanding of the game. We were all just kind of enjoying each other. It was just this big festive community thing in the seats, in the bar at intermission and after the game, and certainly for hours and hours afterwards, which may be regrettable in hindsight, but at various drinking establishments all up and down Upper Street. So, everyone had kind of baked in the disappointment of missing top four. We kind of knew not to expect too much out of the game the next day, but, I know that you were overwhelmed with kind of the size and the scope and the success of the event, but just as an attendee and someone who's fortunate enough to have somewhat of a personal relationship with the men who pulled it off, I just want to say thank you for that. And it's that sort of thing that really just brings people together, which is really what being a Gooner is all about.
Well, look, I'm glad you had a good time. The videos are good, and I'm sure you're going to play one or two of them now in a minute. And everyone who was there seemed to have a good time. And like you say, we were hoping that it was going to be a big, big party night, a big celebration of top four. And, I have to say, like when we were playing those last couple of games, when we played the Derby, when we played Newcastle, I was watching those games and I was feeling as disappointed and frustrated as everybody else about what we did and didn't do on the pitch and the results that we got. But in the back of my mind always was like, well, we're doing this thing before the last game of the season, and wouldn't it be amazing if we got top four? But I think you're right to say that in spite of all that disappointment, people were able to come together, celebrate the fact that we all love this crazy fucking football club, for better, for worse, richer or poorer, for fifth or for fourth, whatever it might be. And, we can put to one side those disappointments and just have a good night. And we really focused on trying to make sure that everybody enjoyed themselves. They paid their money to come along. 900 odd people in this incredible venue in North London is like 15 minutes walk from the Emirates Stadium.
That was crazy. It felt like, and I've told people this, it felt like the U.S. Capitol on the night of the State of the Union address. I mean, it's literally built like that. There's the lower level, and then there was the balcony above with the stage. I mean, it was just packed to the brim. Yeah, I guess you could say.
It was incredible. It was an incredible night, for myself and James, and obviously, I'm sure for us as well, it was amazing to do it with the guys, the Arsenal Vision guys, who are, I'm sure everybody knows, are great guys. They're our friends. So to be able to come together and to harness the goodwill of both communities, and to do it all in one place, and to be able to hang out for the weekend and have drinks and have food and as you say, to celebrate late into the night, which certainly cost me the next day. There's no.
I know some people that went directly from that evening to the Tollington. They just took an Uber directly to the Tollington the next day.
Well, God bless them.
They were called homeless people, but they, they had a good time.
It was amazing, Mike. You were there. It was great to see you, and to sort of feel the excitement people had to come and see us talk about Arsenal. That was just incredible as well, and I've been doing this a long time, as you know, and we've done some live stuff before, but we've never done anything on that scale. And it was amazing. It really was. It was like a once in a lifetime experience, which hopefully we can repeat. So it'll be a twice in a lifetime, then thrice in a lifetime, then what's the four twice?
Multiple times in a lifetime.
Yeah. Once you go beyond once, twice, thrice, there's no what
twice.
Six size. See, English language is weird, isn't it? But hopefully it is something that we can do again, because it's just it's things like that when you've had the disappointment of the sport, you remember the power of the community and the world is in a fucked up place, right? At the moment, there's no two ways about it. It's completely fucked up, and everybody's feeling it one way or the other. So to be able to escape from it and to be in a, how do I say it, like an arena of happiness and love, even for 90 minutes or 2 hours or whatever it is an incredible thing to experience, and we shouldn't take it for granted, and we should be happy that we can do things like that when so many people can't. So
and Arsenal and sport in general is normally meant to be an escape from everyday life, and the fact that we also sometimes need an escape from the escape, is really what it's all about. I mean, when I first started going to the pub here in Washington D.C. To watch Arsenal games back in 2013. That was a season we experienced some crushing defeats. That Wenger's 1000th game, 6-0 Chelsea, 6-1 Liverpool, 6-3. I think we had some crap games, and some of the formative experiences where I met a lot of friends who are still friends to this day was the 4 hours after a crushing defeat. Just sitting around the table and drinking and laughing and talking about the history of the club and stuff until we had almost completely forgotten that we had lost in a heart-wrenching, disgusting fashion.
That's how it goes.
It wasn't Wenger in, Wenger out. It was like brighter days talking about the Invincibles and telling jokes and stuff. And I would trade those days for the celebrations we had after the FA Cup or for a league title or something like that. But
I know.
If you sit alone or you sit in an echo chamber of negativity, when we lose or when we drop points that we shouldn't have dropped, it can get very, I hate to overuse the word toxic, but I generally try to pull out of that either by just sticking my head in the sand or surrounding myself by something not as frustrating. And I guess I just accept mediocrity as a result, but I don't need more anger and frustration.
People like you. People like you accepting media. You're the reason why we haven't won the title, Mike.
I am the reason.
You are the reason.
We've identified it, but and I just wanted to say that, again, on a large scale, this event was it showed that the power of the Gooner community is stronger than the power of people who just can't handle not getting nice things.
Yes.
So that's what I wanted to say. So I did take a couple of videos from outside that. If you weren't able to be there on the day, hopefully you watched the stream. You can still watch the stream, right? Is it on your?
Yeah, it's on the Arseblog YouTube channel.
Okay, but what you won't be able to watch on the Arseblog YouTube channel is the Mike video. So here's the interview. Well, here's the line about 45 minutes before the show started.
15 minutes to doors opening. Suffice it to say, everyone's here already. We've got at least 2,000 to 3,000 people waiting outside already. What's going on? Doors don't even open for 15 minutes. Some of these guys have been here for 4 days. It's incredible.
I might be exaggerating a little bit, and I don't know if you could even hear the audio from that, but yeah, I mean, that line did literally go around the corner. It was a good thing that it wasn't pouring and pissing down rain, but I spoke to the first people in line. Now, by the way, I just assume at this point you and James and Clive and Paul and James. Did I say James twice?
Anyway, James twice. Yeah.
Oh well, he deserves to be said twice. And Elliot were just chilling in the back in the VIP room, with your Courvoisier and
getting the massages, the rub downs, all that kind of stuff before we went on stage, all that kind of prep,
Now, yesterday I asked Andrew Allen. I was like, you're VIP adjacent. You're part of the crew. I said, what was, did you have backdoor entrance? Speaking of, again, I won't go into detail. Did you have backdoor entrance? Were you in the VIP? And he's like, he apparently had the exact opposite of that. He said he rocked up all cocky through the front door and said his name to the ticket people and couldn't find him on the guest list. I mean, even I was on the guest list because I decided to come to London pretty late, and Elliot's like, "Oh, I'll put you on the guest list," and I was happy to be on there. Andrew Allen couldn't even couldn't get in. He had to fight his way in.
I forgot to put his name down on the guest list. Like, of course, like when it was announced, he was going, this is how kind of humble a guy Andrew is, right? When we announced the thing, he said, do I need to buy a ticket or can I get on the guest list? I was going, Jesus Christ, we've worked together for the last 12 years. Of course you're on the guest list. Don't worry about it. Of course you're on the guest list. And I completely forgot to put his name. So he managed to blag his way in all the same. So
yeah, I hadn't met him yet at that point, but I did see some guy getting escorted and thrown violently onto the street, into that park across the street, and then I think it was able to be worked out. So that was nice. Here are the first people in line. Clearly very excited about this event. All right, we are here with the first people in line. What time on Tuesday did you arrive to get this spot?
7 in the morning.
6 o'clock on Tuesday.
6 in the morning.
I mean, I was here on Thursday morning. It was some shit weather, but you stood through it. Where are you guys from? What area?
Hackney.
Yeah. All right, so you traveled from much further than me.
Just here to see Clive, really.
Sweet.
I'm joking.
That makes sense. I mean, well, Clive.
You gotta be loving that sultry voice.
Clive is the attraction. Clive is that enough of that? When are you? Anyone else from further than Hackney, or you guys from New York?
Yes.
No, just Kennington.
All right. And all right. So you're here to see Clive. Who are you here to see? Because I mean, you just have to take a pick.
Everyone.
I'm here to see everyone.
You have to pick one.
It'll be Andrew. It's got to be Andrew.
Nice. All right. The Podfather.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's got to be Arseblog, Andrew. Yeah.
All right.
I've seen him since the beginning. Definitely.
So, all right. Well, you guys have managed to claim the first spot. Doors are opening soon. Enjoy the show.
We're in the top 4. We're in the top 4. We're in the top 4.
Yeah.
We're in the top quarter of the table. That's what we're in.
No, of the queue.
Oh, okay. There you go. The top 4 right there.
Yeah. And cheers for years of amazing, podding.
Yeah.
Excellent. I mean, you're not talking to me. You're talking to them, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I
I've done years of shitty podcasts. They've done a good job. All right, guys. Congratulations.
Cheers.
Now, did those guys go straight to the front row? Did any of them look familiar? Were you?
Yeah, I remember those guys. They were right at the front, right at the very front.
It would have been strange if they were.
The red shirt in particular. There's a lot of faces out there, but I remember that, that red shirt in particular and those guys being right at the front. So fair play. I think if you're there first, you queue up, you get there and you're there when the doors open.
It'd be weird if they just went and sat in the back.
It would be really strange, I guess.
Like you could have just, you had a ticket. You could have just come like a minute before the show, but you know what? There was a lot of dedication there. So I'll play one or two more, but I want to quickly just bring something up, and it's something a lot about. First of all, in context, the amount of money that was raised by the collective audiences of Arseblog, and especially with Elliot's efforts at Arsenal Vision. I mean, this is the second time I've met Mairead from the Arsenal Foundation. The first was at Elliot's show in October, and you could just tell she is absolutely blown away by what your communities have done for that incredible charity. I mean, £100,000 in like just over a week. Or something. Was it 50 or was it 100? It was 100, right? It
was 107,000.
107,000 pounds in just over a week is amazing. And again, it's another, I won't do another half an hour manifesto, but it's just another wonderful thing about the Arsenal family that doesn't get enough credit when you think of how, the level of cuntship you see on Twitter all the time out of Arsenal people.
Yeah, I mean, shouldn't that remind you, or shouldn't that tell you that, the very vocal minority that is angry and loud doesn't represent the vast majority of Arsenal fans?
I think that's never been more clear than in
who are good and generous and giving and part of the community. So, yeah, I mean, the money that the Arsenal Vision Foundation raised was fantastic, and I was very pleased to be supporting that. It was very much Elliot doing a lot of that work behind the scenes and making things happen. But if I can use my platform then to help push people towards making their contributions, then I'm very happy to do that. And of course,
and you do that for UNICEF as well, right?
Yeah, we donated our entire takings from the month of April and rounded it up to 35,000 euros, which we gave to UNICEF, which will go and help children all around the world. So, I think it is important for look, if you're in a position to help, regardless of who you are and what you do, if you're in a position to help, I really feel like you should in this day and age, because there's a lot of inequality. There's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of difficulty for people. And I don't want to sort of sit here and talk about being privileged and all that kind of stuff, because we all have elements of that, and maybe people will roll their eyes. But, you know, to be in a position to help and not do anything, that just doesn't sit right with me. So I'm very proud of what we did, and hopefully we can do it again next year and do it bigger and better and help more people.
Yeah. And, you know, when it comes to charity, there are, I mean, I understand in some situations they're mutually exclusive because people have a limitation on how much they can give. But obviously, you know, we're a community that all supports each other. And as you know, you've been very helpful when it comes to our charity, which is Gooners versus Cancer.
Yeah.
And, you know, while we have a good number of people watching and hopefully listening later, I just wanted to once again remind people that we have 8 days left. The 30th of June is the final day to enter the 89 shirt raffle. We've got about 100 tickets left. Each ticket is about a £20 or $25 donation to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. You can get as many tickets as you want, but as of the end of June 30th, we're going to just cut it off where we are and raffle it off. And if you haven't seen the shirt, it's something that's really unique and can only get from Gooners versus Cancer. If you're a fan of what happened on May 26th, 1989, you'll love this shirt. Got about a minute-long video to play. Andrew, have you seen the shirt that we're raffling off?
Yeah, it's amazing. Amazing.
Well, this is what you can win, and you generally have a relatively good chance. I mean, it's not like a 1 in 3 chance unless you buy up about 150 tickets, but this is what you could win.
Good ball by Gibson. Finding Smith. The top charging through the midfield. Thomas. It's up for grabs now. Thomas. Right at the end.
So that's the shirt. It will be given away on the 1st of July. So go to goonersvcancer.com to get a chance to win that. Andrew, you're generously entered into that because of your visit. Well, you are. That was part of the Tollington event that we had the night before yours. Any donations connecting to that event got you entries for the shirt. So you are in that.
Okay, cool. Come on, me.
And if you win, I'm going to have to answer a lot of questions, I'm sure, but it's going to be completely randomized and live.
Nobody would question your integrity, Mike.
Nobody.
Surely not.
My middle name is Integrity. I'm Michael I. Feinberg. It's So the other thing is, if you're a gamer or if you know a gamer who happens to be a Gooner or who happens to hate cancer, one or the other or both, we're doing our 3rd annual FIFA tournament this summer. It's going to start on the 26th of July, but registrations are open now. Basically, just go to follow on Twitter, Gooners v Cancer. All the announcements will be there. You can also follow us on Instagram. You can go to goonersvcancer.com for more details, but it's a fun event that brings people together from all over the world in the name of charity and trying to destroy each other on a video game with your thumbs and forefingers. And you know, the challenge is to see who can beat my son in the game, because he spends all day playing.
Now that sounds like a fix.
So that's Gooners versus. Well, when he won 2 years ago, the money went directly back into the pool. So anyway, that's our little charitable event, and we love doing it. And again, sorry,
I said bravo.
Thank you.
Fair fucks.
So I know you're not good. That's going to be our new, Gooners versus Cancer motto. It's fair
fucks.
Exactly.
Fair fucks to you, lads.
Any more user questions? Now would be the time to send them in. We've got about 3 or 4 more minutes with Andrew.
I can go to you about 10 past if you want.
Well, we'll see. I want to let you out on a high.
Okay.
Quit while we're ahead, maybe. I know you're not going to come stateside for the summer tour. We've talked about that between vacation and disgusting places. But I know James will be giving all of his best content probably and access to the Athletic, unless you've worked out a deal where he's double dipping. But if you need a summer tour correspondent, I'm just saying, I think even after my miscues a couple years ago, I think I might be getting back into the press box again, which is probably why you're not coming in the first place.
No, absolutely nothing to do with you. To be fair, it was all about Andy, really, but I didn't want to bring that up. So
showing up in LA with his shorts on, his short sleeve shirt, and I mean, you saw how in the press conference how incredibly professional of a journalist I can be.
Yes.
I
did. I was very impressed. But maybe let's talk about this special correspondent role that you've very subtly brought up. We can have a chat about that at some point for sure.
Well, I'm a fountain of ridiculous information, and I can bring a special touch. But that's not me saying that. Well, I guess it was me saying that. It was actually directly me saying that. Any other user questions? We have back to the Rafinha thing again, but this is really more of a generic question. What is the logic of purposely underbidding on a player, a la Rafinha, a la everyone else we've ever bid on, pretty much? Is this a common practice? I mean, negotiating is a common practice, but then there are some, what I guess we would call derisory bids that are so far below the club's stated valuation that it almost seems counterintuitive to being useful. Would you say?
Maybe, but I guess there's some method to the madness. If Leeds are saying we want this and Leeds want this and Arsenal are bidding this, then I don't quite know what the reason might be. Maybe it's that Arsenal don't value the player at the same level as Leeds, which I think could potentially be the case. But also, I think it's a case that when you're trying to buy a player, or when you're trying to buy anything, you don't just pay the highest price straight away, do you? There's always an element of negotiation, always an element of like, okay, you want this, we'll give you this. Well, how about this? And you meet somewhere in the middle, maybe towards the high end of the middle, as it might be from time to time. So I don't quite know, but I would guess that part of it might be that they have, or they feel like the player is so interested in joining that they can use that aspect of it to try and be part of those negotiations.
That's a great point. You put in a bid, you make your official interest known, and then the player wants to move. Although Rafinha, of all of the ones that we've been linked with, seems the least like dead set on, like not like Tielemans, not like Fabio Vieira, but just he seems to be kind of, his head just seems to be on a swivel, looking around like who will pay me, who gives us a chance to win. I could see Chelsea getting involved in that. I could even see a lot up the road getting involved in that. My concern about offering, what was it, 30 or 35 on a 65 million valued player by his team could open the door to somebody else coming in and saying, okay, we're actually going to seriously negotiate with you, not like these guys.
Yeah, maybe. But again, it depends who's out there. Barcelona are obviously interested, but don't have any money. I mean, they can't even pay the players that they have. So they're a mess. So I'm not sure, unless they do something when it comes to selling players in the market, I'm not sure that, they're really a big issue. So are there any other English clubs in there? Maybe so. We'll have to wait and see. But, I think if they really want the player and the valuation that Leeds want is close to where they think the valuation of the player actually is, then it should be able to get done. The only thing is, if Leeds are holding out for a huge sum, trying to spark a bidding war, whatever it might be, then maybe Arsenal will think, okay, we don't have time for this. We've got a lot of stuff to do this summer, and we may have to walk away.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got 3 final questions here, and then we're gonna wrap it up. One, I think I could probably take this one. Anyone know the difference between advanced talks and very advanced talks? The differences vary, in my opinion.
Yeah, okay. It's very obvious.
Yeah, that was easy. What's your earliest game memory, Andrew, at Highbury from Mark Bacretin, who normally comes up with 9 very good comments and questions and 1 absolutely horrible one, and I just haven't seen the horrible one from him today.
Right. Okay. Wimbledon at some point in the 90s. I can't remember. I can't remember what year. Night game. Wimbledon in their disgusting pomp with Vinnie Jones and all those guys. Then
in the 90s, though. You're not talking about the game right before Anfield '89. You're talking that. You're talking
no. It's in the 90s at some point. Yeah. I think that's it. Yeah, I can't quite remember, but that would be the earliest one. We won though, so that's good.
Beautiful. As per you would expect to against Wimbledon.
Mm-hmm.
And the final question goes to Matthew D'Souza, who says, as Brazil are favorites for the World Cup, how many of our Brazilian players, of which we might end up with like 12 of them, can we expect to not give us stuff from October onwards? Do you think there'll be kind of that whatever the opposite of a hangover is, like a pre-hangover for
like an aperitif of not giving a shitness?
Well, you remember when Mo Elneny got hurt right before the last World Cup and didn't get to play in it for Egypt. I think that was what happened, if I remember correctly.
I remember.
And it's got to be a real concern when you play in the middle of a season and you're playing twice a week. I mean, at some point, you're going to be a little worried that you're either going to get into the World Cup tired or, even worse, miss it due to injury. So I think this is actually a really good question.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think the thing you would say is maybe you want to get into the World Cup with rhythm, with form, playing well, playing frequently. So you've got that rhythm, you've got that match sharpness. I think that will be more important for any player, not just Brazilians who are going to the World Cup. But, specifically on the Brazilians, I do have a slight concern about, there's one in particular, and that'd be the lad called Gabriel.
I mean,
because we've only got
teeth left by the time the World
Cup. We've only got maybe 3 or 4 of those, in the squad at the moment. So we maybe need to just up the Gabriel count. Yeah. Get another 3 or 4 of them in, maybe 5 or 6.
Does it matter if they're Brazilian? Because we got that old one that we got rid of that we could probably get back. The one like the Medusa looking one that couldn't.
Just get all the Gabriels in. They're interchangeable. Really, this is the way it works now.
We had Gabriel Marcotti on the pod last week, and I asked him if he was available because I don't even need for them to be Brazilian.
Well, that's it. Any Gabriel.
Gabe Kaplan, of Mr. Cotter fame. I think he's just playing poker someplace right now.
I don't know who that is.
I would take it.
Never heard
of Mr. Cotter is. All right, come on.
No.
All right. Well, with that, I think we'll wrap it up on that high note.
On the high note, and there it is.
Exactly. Well, Andrew, I've really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better. I appreciate the time you spent with me. After the show last month, had some encouraging words. I'm sure you don't remember them, but they were. I appreciate you dropping by the Tollington the night before for our charity event, the night before your show. And hopefully we'll have a season ahead of us that has a lot of winning, a lot of community. I mean, it is possible to have our cake and eat it too. It doesn't have to be one or the other, but thanks again for joining us tonight. I normally ask, where can we tell people how to find you? So I don't want to not ask you that, but it's almost kind of a.
Do you mean like my house?
Well,
or just online? You don't want like to send people,
both. I mean, I've triangulated the location, but so we don't need.
Have you looked at the cloud formations? Have you checked that out just to make sure that you're in the right area? All that kind of stuff.
Well, yes. Jared from our podcast actually was in a hotel the other night, and I could tell from the way that the the sun was coming in late in the day from his right, that he was facing south, and I ended up ordering him a pizza.
You know what? You guys have such an amazing grasp of north, northwest, east, and south. Americans are always talking about that, like south facing this. The roads go east to west. We never use any of that over here, so I'm always quite astounded at
well,
that.
And that's why whenever I come over, everyone's just walking around going like this.
Yeah, where are we?
No one seems to understand where they're going.
What's this thing called a compass? Never heard of it. But if you'll excuse me, I'm off to the North Pole. I did like this comment, by the way, from Joseph Shelley, who said, "I notice you're not showing any of the Tollington or late night pub crawl videos. Our reputations, thank you." I get the sense you're saving it all up for a summer special of some kind, though.
Well, the post Tolly videos are more. They're not so much embarrassing to you as they would be to Paz and to Elliot from the karaoke event, and Elliot's put me on a deep six with those videos. He wants them,
understandably.
But it was a fun event, and frankly, from the time I got home and ordered pizza and saw the sunrise from that evening, I slept straight through until about an hour before your show, and that's the only way I was able to walk. So,
nobody needs to see Elliot doing Lady Gaga. That's all I'm saying.
Or Paz doing Britney Spears, which was something special.
Equally disturbing.
Yes, but lovely. So, in any event, thanks again, Andrew, for joining us. I can think of no better way to cap this off than this.